offering my most humble pranams at the lotus feet of beloved Bhagwan. The topic is the importance of intention. I'll begin this by sharing a story from the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Bhagavata Purana as it's also called. This is a very, very sacred text. It is said that when the great Veda Vyasa, sage Veda Vyasa, had completed all his tasks, assigned tasks, what all did he do? Apart from writing the Mahabharata, which is considered as the fifth Veda, he actually compiled and categorized all the Vedas, the Upanishads, the Puranas, everything. Vyasa is the great spearhead of knowledge, the fountainhead of knowledge, who classified all the ancient wisdom. Having done that, he was feeling very dissatisfied and he was not at all happy. That is when Swami says in his discourses that sage Narada comes to him and tells, you know what? Sing the glory of God. Write the Bhagavatam, which is the Leelas of Lord Krishna. And then you will find peace and happiness. So even such a great sage, Vyasa, finally found joy, peace, and happiness in the stories, the Leelas, the Mahimas of Krishna. He wrote them down in the Bhagavatam. And in that Bhagavatam are many, many stories. In fact, it is just stories. But each and every story has so much of meaning, so many lessons. And that is why I'm going to begin with one such story. This is the story of Jaya and Vijaya. Jaya and Vijaya are the guards at Vaikuntha, which is the abode of Lord Vishnu. Those seven doors that open up. And then there is Vishnu with his consort, Mother Lakshmi, sitting on the Shesha, the Adi Shesha. Now, Jaya and Vijaya are guarding the doors there, and four sages called as Brahma Manasa Putra, meaning they are the children of Brahma, but Manasa Putra, not children like begetting through the reproduction. They are children of his mind, Brahma's mind. So these are the four eternally young sages: Sanaka, Sanandana, Sanatana, and Sanat Kumara. They look like 5-year-old boys, but they are ancient and they have all the wisdom of the universe in them. So these four sages have come to meet Vishnu, but they are stopped at the gates by Jaya and Vijaya. They say, no, no, you're not allowed to go in. The greatest sin possibly is stopping a devotee from going to the Lord. And Jaya and Vijaya commit this sin. They are divine beings who have the greatest privilege of being at the abode of the Lord. But at the abode of the Lord, if you're not humble enough and you don't serve the devotee, you're as good as a waste. And that is why these four sages curse Jaya and Vijaya. What is the curse they put? They say that you both seem to be very egoistic about your position as divine beings. We curse you that you have to go to earth and take birth again and again. Go to earth and take birth again and again. Immediately, Jaya and Vijaya realize that they have lost the greatest opportunity of being at Vaikuntha forever. And now they will have to struggle and suffer like any other being on earth. So they fall at the feet of the sages and say, please forgive us. We did a wrong thing. We did a mistake. But once anything is uttered, it can't be taken back. That is why Swami always tells us, be very careful in your speech. Once something is uttered, we can't take it back. Every word is like an arrow, which is once shot, you can't withdraw it. The arrow will go and hit something. Therefore, we have to be extremely careful with the tongue. So the sages say that no, now we can't withdraw the curse, it's already done. They go in, they have the darshan of Lord Vishnu. After that, Vishnu's heart melts for Jaya and Vijaya. So he comes and tells them, Papam, you didn't know, you made a mistake. I shall do something about it. The Lord is very compassionate. He's very forgiving. How many ever mistakes we make, our Swami forgives us, encourages us. That is the reason we all have been able to call ourselves devotees, right? If Swami was strict and for every mistake we made, he punished us, where would we ever have the opportunity to know Swami? We must eternally be grateful for his mercy and love upon us. So Vishnu tells Jaya and Vijaya, I'm giving you two options. You need not be stuck on earth in the cycle of birth and death. Option one is you can take 7 births on earth as my greatest devotees. Or you can choose 3 births on earth as people who hate me, as Rakshasas who hate me, as demons who hate me. What do you want? For any of us, it seems that the best possible thing is to choose to be the devotee of the Lord. Choose to be his devotee for 7 births. But Jaya and Vijaya tell, Lord, we choose to be your haters. We choose to be demons for 3 births. Vishnu smiles at them. He is very happy. Why is he happy? Because he knows the intention in the heart of Jaya and Vijaya. The hearts of Jaya and Vijaya, he knows them. That is the beauty of the Lord. The Lord always sees the intention. We see what people are doing, how they are doing. But the Lord sees why they are doing. And Vishnu knew why Jaya and Vijaya chose 3 births as demons and haters of Lord Vishnu. Those who hate Vishnu. Because they wanted to spend as little time possible away from their Lord. They wanted to get back to their Lord. They wanted to come back to Vaikuntha. They couldn't bear the thought of separation from Vishnu. So they said, even if we have to be Rakshasas, no problem. But only 3 births, only 3 births. And that is why Jaya and Vijaya were born first as the Asuras, Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. Then they were born as Ravana and Kumbhakarna. And finally, they were born as Shishupala and Dantavakra. We know Hiranyaksha was killed by the Varaha avatar. Lord Vishnu took birth. The Lord can't stay without his devotees. He himself took birth on earth so that he could get back to his devotee. He took the Varaha avatar to kill Hiranyaksha. He took the Narsimha avatar to kill Hiranyakashipu. Now, though they are Rakshasas, though they are demons, though they are cursed like this, the power of the Lord is such that once you come in touch with the Lord, transformation happens. Even in an Asura. And that is why in the next birth, they are born not as Asuras, but as Rakshasas, which is Ravana and Kumbhakarna. Rakshasa, when we say demonic, it means they have a demonic quality. Otherwise, they are humans only, but they have a demonic quality. And this time, both Ravana and Kumbhakarna both found redemption at the hands of Lord Rama. One avatar was enough. And finally, Shishupala and Dantavakra both were killed by Lord Krishna. And they were not even the main cause for the avatarhood of Krishna. They were only a side story. Because by now they had become less evil. Each time the Lord touches, the evil nature reduces. And finally, after these 3 births, they found their way back to Vaikuntha to their Lord. Many times Ravana is criticized as an evil Rakshasa. But Swami would say in his discourses, Ravana, in terms of his intelligence and knowledge, he was greater than Rama also. It is just that he had one weakness, Kama. There are 6 enemies, 6 weaknesses for man. The Arshad Varga, they are called. Kama, desire. Krodha, anger. Lobha, greed. Moha, infatuation. Mada, pride. And Matsarya, envy or jealousy. And Swami said, because Ravana had this one weakness for women, that is why he had to suffer. Now, if we criticize Ravana as bad, what should we speak of ourselves? Huh? He had only one. We have all the six vices: Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. Ravana is a great personality. In fact, again, Swami in his discourses narrates how when Rama kills Ravana, Ravana is dying on the battlefield. Rama tells Lakshmana, go quickly to Ravana and listen to what he has got to say. He will have a beautiful message from which you can learn. Rama is sending his brother to go and learn from Ravana. And what is it that Ravana says? Ravana tells Lakshmana, Swami narrates in his discourse. He says, I had great plans. I wanted to convert all the ocean water around Lanka from salty to sweet. I wanted to make it fresh water that people can drink and enjoy. I wanted to build a bridge between Lanka and heaven so that anybody in Lanka can go to heaven. I also wanted to connect hell and heaven so that those suffering in hell can go to heaven. And Ravana had all these capabilities. That is the amazing, powerful person that he was. But then Ravana tells Lakshmana that though I had all these aims, I postponed them, I delayed. And now I'm dying and I am realizing that I didn't do all of those. So Lakshmana, anytime you get a good thought, immediately put it into action. Don't delay. Good thoughts, don't delay. If you get a bad thought, delay it. That is what Ravana failed to do. He got the thought of abducting Mother Sita. He blindly followed it. He immediately executed it. That is why he advises, when you get a good thought, immediately put it into action. When you get a bad thought, delay it. Keep delaying it. Such is a great personality that Ravana is. In fact, I don't think it's a coincidence that 2 years back, on 17th of April 2019 precisely, when Sri Lanka launched its second satellite ever, that satellite has been named as Ravana. Because Ravana was technologically very advanced. He is the earliest to have the ability to fly in his own personal aircraft. He had his own personal jet, the Pushpaka Vimana. Nobody else had. So Ravana is a great personality, a wonderful personality. In fact, he's highly revered and respected in many parts of South India and Sri Lanka as well. He just had one weakness. He's so wonderful because he's not an ordinary being. He's one of the greatest devotees of the Lord. He's one of the Jaya and Vijaya. I don't know who Jaya became, who Vijaya became, because Jaya and Vijaya became Ravana and Kumbhakarna. But that is what it is. What we learn from this beautiful story of the Bhagavata Purana, there are many lessons. One lesson, of course, is don't ever come in between a Lord and a devotee. There is a direct connection between the Lord and the devotee, and let the devotee be able to approach his Lord or her Lord anytime. The second message is don't be judgmental of people. We often think, Jaya Vijaya, what fools they were. They chose to be born as people who hate the Lord. No. Don't think like that. Because we don't know what is their connection with God. We don't know their intention. And the third and most important message, that is the theme of this whole talk, which is God sees only the intention. The Lord knew that their intention was they want to come back to me. And that is why even before they could come back to Vishnu, he himself went to them. He took 4 different avatars for the sake of this Jaya and Vijaya. Wonderful, right? So, intention matters. We may say that we are doing seva, we are doing bhajan, we are doing this, we are doing that. We always speak about what we are doing. But there is something that is more important than what we are doing. What is that? How we are doing it. Am I doing it with love? Am I doing it with care? Am I doing it professionally? I'm doing it bad or I'm doing it good? So what I'm doing is important, but more important than that is how I'm doing. Now, these two things, what a person is doing and how he is doing, is something that we can observe and see. But the Lord, Swami, doesn't care so much for what we are doing or how we are doing as much as he cares for why we are doing something. The Lord always sees that why are you doing what you are doing? Why are you doing bhajans? Are you doing bhajans to show everybody that you're a great singer? Why are you being an office bearer in the organization or the trust? Is it to show your power or is it to help people realize the truth? That is something that nobody can understand except the person and Swami. Why I am doing something only I know and Swami knows. But that is what matters to Swami. And that is why we have to be very, very, very careful in our intention. If our intention is pure, even if what we are doing is wrong and how we are doing is wrong, the Lord will lovingly correct us. I will share one very sweet incident. This was narrated to me by a senior alumnus of the Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning, Brother Pushkaraj Gumaste. He currently holds a very high position in Barclays Bank. And he did MBA at the Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning from 1992 to 1994. And in those 2 years, he learned many lessons at the lotus feet of our Bhagwan. And one beautiful lesson was on the importance of the intention. Now, we know in Puttaparthi, every day, Swami would come walking and grant darshan. And all of us would strive to sit somewhere in the front so that Swami's glance falls on us, so that he looks at us, he's loving us, he cares for us. We want to get an opportunity to touch him, to see him, to talk to him. This would be our goal always. And that is the reason we also wanted to be students. We want to be students so that we can get darshan every day. We can get an opportunity to interact with him on a daily basis. So that was Pushkaraj's idea as well. He wanted to get chances to be as close to Swami as possible. So what he would do, many times he would bunk the last hour of classes, go to the hostel early, quickly get dressed, change, and then rush to the mandir. Now, going to the mandir is a very disciplined event. In a very disciplined manner, the students in lines go from the hostel to the mandir. But Pushkaraj wanted to sit front every day so that he gets close darshan. So he would skip the lines, go from behind, hide somewhere, and rush to the mandir earlier so that he can go and sit in the front line. And when the other students come, they will see that one place is already occupied by this boy. They feel disappointed, but they can't do anything about it. They don't know what to do. They will tell him, and he will say, if you want, you also come front. Don't tell me anything. And this was how it was. One day, when he went to the mandir, those days, Swami used to stay in the Prashanti Nilayam actual mandir, where the interview room is there. Right above the interview room was Swami's room. So Swami would get down from his room, come to the interview room, and then come out to grant darshan. Now, on this particular day, this brother was sitting there in the front, in the veranda, in the portico. Suddenly, the door opened and Swami came out for darshan. Now, this was a little precarious situation because he was one of the few students who was there in the mandir. Along with him, a few others, 3-4 others as well, had skipped the lines and come front. So they were the only 5 boys in the mandir. All other students had not yet come. If Swami sees, what will Swami think? He will think that he will know that these boys are indisciplined and come front. See, Swami knows everything. He knows everything, but physically to get caught is a problem. So they were wondering what to do, but then Swami came out, he smiled at them. So they immediately felt relaxed. They said, Abba, okay. We will not get into any trouble. Swami went, completed his darshan rounds. And when he came back to the portico, because from there he would have called people in for an interview, and he will take them and go into the interview room. So he came to the portico and he looked at these boys sitting and he said, "How come you have all come when other students have not come? I know, indisciplined. You have come before the lines. Wait, I will put you all in trouble." Swami said like that with a smile. They were happy. Whatever Swami says, as long as he says with a smile, we are happy. Why with a smile? Anything Swami says, we are happy. In fact, I remember when I joined as Swami student, one of the first things Swami told me was, "A mental hospital," he called me. And I was very happy. Because it doesn't matter what Swami calls. Swami called. No? That's all. If somebody tells me, "Hey, Swami called you mental hospital," I would say, "Swami didn't call you anything. No, he called me mental hospital. I am very happy." Anything Swami calls is enough. And now when I think of it, that's because whatever Swami does, he does with the greatest, with the ultimate love. And with love, when you do anything, people will be happy. There would be a plump person and Swami would go and call him a pakoda. Pakoda is like a fried dish that is round and fat. And that person would become so happy, Pakoda, Swami called me pakoda. You try that. After Swami goes in, you go and tell him, "Hey, pakoda." He will just smash your nose and make it a bhaji. That's the difference, because when Swami says it with so much love, he used to call us students as Dunna Pota, meaning buffalo. And personally, I consider that as one of the greatest trophies Swami has given me, that he has made me his Dunna Pota. He has made me his buffalo. When Swami would look and say, "Dunna Pota," I would feel so happy. So happy. Swami, you tell anything, Swami. No problem. Because adharam madhuram, nayanam madhuram, vadanam madhuram, hasitam madhuram. Madhura dipate akhilam madhuram. As the Madhurashtakam says, everything about the Lord is sweetness. His lips are sweet, his nose is sweet, his eyes are sweet, his words are sweet, his actions are sweet. Everything is so sweet, sweet, sweet. Because it's filled with love. So coming back to the story, Swami said, "I'll put you in trouble. Wait, I'll put you in trouble." And he went into the interview room. Now the other students came and everyone was seated in the mandir. The students were all disappointed a bit because they missed darshan. They were even more disappointed because they saw that the front lines had already been occupied by these boys. So they couldn't sit in the front. And they were all seated. Swami was giving interviews in the interview room. After the interviews got over, Swami sent out all the people whom he had taken for the interview. The door opened and they all came out, and then the door closed again. So now everyone was alert, because anytime Swami can come out. Interviews are over. Swami is alone in the interview room. He'll come out anytime, either to pick more people for interview, or he'll come and talk to the students. Anything can happen. So when they were waiting like this, the door slammed open. We have often heard of doors slamming shut, but this door slammed open. And Swami came out. He looked so angry. His eyes were big. He said, "Where is the warden? Call the warden here." He called the warden. And then he said, "This boy, this boy, this boy, this boy," pointed out to these 5 boys. "How come they're coming before the lines? No discipline at all. Warden, you're not maintaining discipline in your hostel." Swami scolded the warden. And then these boys also didn't know what to do. They had been caught. And Swami had exposed them. And when Swami is so upset, you can be assured that when you get back to the hostel, oh my God, everybody will be upset. The other boys were possibly happy that these brothers got what they deserved. They got caught. Good. Swami only taught them. Nice. Swami like that blasted. He scolded the warden for indiscipline. And then he went back into the interview room. There was absolute silence. The warden made a mental note of these 4 boys. Now they were sure that they are caught. They, special camera will be on them, the warden's attention, to ensure that they don't go before lines now. It's all over. Again, after a few minutes, the interview room door opened. This time it opened very gently, noiselessly. From inside, Swami looked at these 5 boys and said, "You 5, come inside." Swami calls these 5 boys inside and closes the interview room door. And then Swami smiles and says, "I told you, right, I'll get you into trouble. I got you into trouble now." So sweet, no, Swami? Little, Krishna, this is Sai Krishna. So he tells, "I got you into trouble." And then Swami tells, "Now if you love Swami, come front and show me. Now come in the front and show me." It's a challenge the Lord puts. If you really love Swami, now come in the front and show me. And then he opened the interview room door and let these 5 boys out. Brother Pushkaraj was telling that this was something very, very difficult. What to do? Swami has said, "If you love me, come in the front." Yes, Swami, I love you and I want to come in the front. But how? Every day, the warden and other teachers keep a special lookout to ensure that they don't go in the front. How to come in the front? And then began his efforts, his search for a way to go in the front so that he can be close to Swami. Finally, after days and weeks of thinking and planning and strategizing, he came up with a beautiful idea. What was that idea? Now, in the hostel, there are about 400 to 500 students. So it is natural that at any point in time, on any day, somebody or the other will have fever or cough or cold, or they would have fallen while playing games and I would have broken their leg or twisted their leg. Some or the other medical issue will be there, right? And when there are 500 people living in a place. Now, many times, these students are unable to walk and go to the mandir. Pushkaraj volunteered and told the warden that whoever is sick in the hostel, whoever is injured, whoever is unable to go to the mandir, on a bicycle, I will take them to mandir. The warden was very happy. This boy is wanting to serve his other brothers, so he allowed him. The sick boys or the injured boys, they were very happy with Pushkaraj because they are getting a chance to have darshan, which otherwise would have been difficult. See, those years, 1992, 93, Puttaparthi was very, 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 very different from what it is now. We didn't have these many autos everywhere. You know how many auto rickshaws are there in Puttaparthi now? None of those were there. It was very, very basic in terms of transport facilities. So that is how this brother started taking these sick boys to the mandir. Now, what happened was, because he was doing this noble task, the warden told him that when you're taking the boys to the mandir, you need to help them get down from the cycle, take them slowly and make them sit, right? So you go early, no problem. Just imagine, he is now being told officially to go early. And he began to go early to the mandir. And when he's seating all the other sick boys or boys who are having a leg pain, whatever, he's also able to sit in the front. And after months of Swami giving him the challenge, during darshan, he could look at Swami in his eye and say, "Swami, I love you, Swami. And I have fulfilled the challenge. I have come in the front and I'm showing you. Every time I'm coming in the front now." And that is the beautiful story that this brother narrated. And why I narrated this is to show that when the intention is good, this brother's intention was not about cheating others. It was not about bunking classes. His intention was, I want to be close to Swami. Why he did what he did was because he wanted to be close to Swami. That's the pure intention. What he did was wrong. How he did it was wrong, agreed. But as I said, when why we are doing something is right and pure, the Lord will lovingly come in and correct us and correct what we are doing and how we are doing. That is the beauty of intention. When we have a pure intention, the Lord will automatically correct what we are doing and how we are doing. And that is what Swami did to this brother. In the end, everybody was happy. Swami is happy because when everybody is happy, Swami is happy. That is his, your bliss is my food, he says. This brother was happy because every day he's able to go in the front. The warden is happy because this brother who was indisciplined is now doing seva. Now, that is another important message from this story, When we do serve, when we serve others, we endear ourselves to the Lord. We get closer to the Lord. If we do seva, we become close to Swami. Directly. That is what happened with him. That is why Swami says, Jana Seva is Janardana Seva. Manava Seva is Madhava Seva. Service to man is service to God. We automatically go closer to God when we serve man. But as I said, the most important message from this is that our intention is what Swami is looking at. Every moment of our life, we should ensure that our intention is pure. Whatever we do, whether we do bhajans, whether we do seva, whether we go to our office and work, whether we are doing housework, whether we are studying, whatever we are doing, let us do it with the intention, Swami, I am doing this because through this, I want to get closer to you. Let that be the sole intention of whatever we do in life. Then, even if what we are doing is wrong or how we are doing is wrong, because why we are doing it is right, Swami will lovingly correct us, bring us back onto the right path. Thank you. Jai Sai Ram.